Pickle, let's go to the hotline. We are pleased to be joined by the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. He's the voice of the Texas Longhorns. You can see him on High School Scoreboard Live most Friday nights. Not this Friday night, though, for reasons we'll get into. We're pleased to be joined by the great Craig Way. Mr. Way, how are you?
I'm good. And, I had a question I needed to ask Pickle. I forgot to when she got me on the line. Down here in the greater Austin and central Texas area, there was a lot of rain. So much so, in fact, they were worried about the crossings at the Llano River. And Llano ISD actually closed school for a day. Now, I know that would have been cause for celebration when Pickle was a Llano Yellow Jacket, but I'm just calling to see, just interested to see how the folks are doing. They didn't get flooded out or anything, did they?
No, they didn't. Luckily, the house is up on a little bit of a hill, but Slab Road down there, as you know very well, tends to get flooded quite often, which back in the day really hindered my bus route. But they're doing well.
Good to hear. Glad to hear that.
It's Craig Way, the Texas High School Hall of Famer, but we're first going to talk to you about your other gig besides being the Texas High School Hall of Famer. That's the voice of the Texas Longhorns, because the Texas Longhorns have quite a game this weekend. You will be on your way up to Ann Arbor as Texas visits Michigan in what can be classified as one of those real big helmet games. You can just put the two helmets out there and sell it that way. Two questions for you. One, is this your first trip to the Big House? And two, in your I know you've been talking about this game all week on the Craig Way Show down there in Austin. What in particular matchups are you interested in watching on Saturday when they tee it up?
Well, it'll be my first time to call a game in the Big House. I've been to Ann Arbor before. Texas played a basketball game a few years ago up there when the Wolverines had Mo Wagner and all those guys, those big guys. There was a game at Chrysler Arena, but I've never called a game at the Big House, which is why when a lot of SEC honks had me on their shows and whatever before the year, like at SEC Media Day, and they said, hey, Texas, first year in the SEC, which road destination are you most excited about? And I'd say, Ann Arbor. And they go, what? Well, wait a minute. That's not an SEC. And I said, yeah, but remember that Texas is playing its three rivals away from home. So they're playing at Arkansas, where I've been at obviously College Station in the Oklahoma game, obviously Red River rivalry. So there it is in Dallas. So those I've done. The only other road trip for Texas is Vanderbilt. And Nashville is a great town, and that'll be at the end of October. But if you're asking me which game I was looking forward to traveling to call the most this year, it was definitely going to be Michigan. To your second question, the old trench thing, and maybe this is apropos since it is two tradition-laden programs in Texas and Michigan, but that trench thing is gonna be big. Michigan held Fresno State to nine yards rushing a week ago, and the Longhorns want to do a little better in the ground game even than they did last week. And then conversely, Michigan has a two-headed monster at quarterback. Davis Warren is a great story. It's one of those stories like we've profiled on our programs in the past for high school kids in Texas, overcame leukemia, and is a great story. And then Alex Orji, Saxe High School product, is a guy who can, cross you up with what he can do in the run game and throw the ball occasionally. So those are the matchups I think I'm looking forward to the most.
Craig Way, the Texas High School Hall of Famer, joins us every Thursday here on Texas Football Today. You can involve the conversation in hashtag TF Today. All right, Craig, to the high school ranks we go, and you and I share and we even talked about this on Valley Sports Southwest on Friday night. You and I share, I think, an overall belief and ethos about don't overreact to week one. Don't overreact to 1 week of data. So then I'm going to ask you to overreact to 1 week of data. Is there a team from week one that you look at what they did in week one and it makes you at least consider thinking, oh, okay, they might be better than I thought. I might need to recalibrate my expectations. Was there one performance in week one that you found particularly persuasive if you were the overreacting type?
And none of us are ever that way, are we? We expected Columbus to play well, but for a high-level team in Class 3A to go to a high-level 4A Division II team, and not only beat them, but beat them soundly. And they answered a lot of questions. Obviously, how would Grayson Rigdon do in the transition from the 6-man game to the 11-man game? I think he showed he's quite ready for that. And I think there were a lot of things. Adam Schobel looked great at quarterback. And maybe the flip side of what you're talking about, Chap, is maybe there should be maybe a little more concern about Cuero than perhaps we might have had going in. Again, too early to tell, small sample size, but it was a pretty impressive sample size from the Columbus perspective.
I'll take that same question and kind of flip it. Again, we are nobody's overreacting. No, this is not the show where we overreact to things. There's definitely not a segment we do on Monday literally overreacting to things. My question, though, is there the reverse of that? A team that their first week performance, you go, ooh, maybe if I were the overreacting type, I would want to recalibrate my expectations downwards a little bit. Again, hypothetically, if you were overreactive.
Yeah, maybe Argyle a little. I mean, what Jeff Rayburn's done at Lone Star obviously speaks for itself, and a tremendous effort there. But I think it might have, again, raised an eyebrow or two about how they controlled a lot of that game and took command of it in the second half. Maybe that's, I think also, and this is the recency bias having just called the game last week, I think we were probably all made more aware of the has in front of him in terms of getting his defense much more where he wants it, and having a little better ground game than what they had. Those were the things I think that disappointed him the most in a very competitive ball game and a loss to Cooper. And maybe Cooper also falls into that category of the ones who raise your eyebrow and say, hey, maybe they're going to be better than perhaps some. That's a sliding scale between those two teams on expectation versus surprise versus mild disappointment.
All right, Craig, it's the meanest thing we do to each other each week. I'm going to give you 3 games. You can only select one, or you can go wild card if there's another game that you're interested in, but you can only teleport to one Texas high school football game this week. Are you going to DeSoto for North Crowley and DeSoto? Are you going to Houston, are you going to the Austin area for Rockwall at Lake Travis, or are you going to East Texas for Chapel Hill and Gilmer? Which of those 3 games are you teleporting to?
I'm off the chart on this one. It's Anna Gutter for me.
Oh!
It's now all of those other ones you mentioned all have their value. They all have their intrigue. I think we'll find out. I think a little more about Rockwall this week. I think we'll find out a little more about Atascocita this week when they play Katy. I think we'll definitely find out more about North Crowley. The whole thing about being ready for prime time, because we know what DeSoto is, but. To use your phrase in describing Gunter, having to punch up not 1 but 2 full weight classes, a 3AD2 dynasty to be certain, but playing a team that won a 4AD1 crown a year ago, and they look to be a legit contender in 5AD2. I think this is going to be for both teams, but especially I think for Gunter.
He's Craig Way. He's a Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. You can usually see him on Bally Sports Southwest on High School Scoreboard Live, but not this week. It'll just be Aaron and myself. We'll miss you desperately. But he will be up in Ann Arbor. You can listen to him call Texas and Michigan on your radio dial. Craig, appreciate your time, my friend. Safe travels. And as I mentioned, we will miss you on Friday night, but I know it's for the greater good.
I'm considering taking your suggestion to go out to a Michigan high school football game tomorrow night just to laugh at them and say, "Oh, isn't that cute what y'all are doing?" That was your suggestion to do it, to do that and say, "You want some real high school football? You come down to the Lone Star State."
Thanks, Craig. Please be safe.
All right, we'll see you guys.
There he goes, Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer.